You're listening to the Culips English podcast. To download the study guide for this episode, which includes the transcript, detailed vocabulary explanations, real-world examples, and a quiz, visit our website, culips.com. CULIPS.com. Hey everybody, my name is Andrew.
And my name is Morag.
And you're listening to Culips. Hey Morag.
Hey Andrew, how's it going?
I am doing all right, but I have a craving right now for a freshly baked cookie.
Ooh.
I've had this craving for a couple of days, but I haven't caved in yet and eaten a cookie.
Well, that's the problem with the craving for freshly baked cookies. You might have to do it yourself.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this and thinking about baking, and I thought, wow, this would make a great conversation topic for today's Simplified speech episode. So Morag, today I think we should do exactly this and talk about baking. How does that sound to you?
I'm in.
All right, so just before we start though, I want to let all of our listeners know that there is a study guide available for this episode. So everyone, if you would like to study along with Morag and me today, then just visit our website, culips.com, and download the study guide. All right, so the reason I didn't bake fresh cookies, Morag, is that I don't actually own an oven here in my apartment in Korea.
Oh no, that's so sad.
So I've tried baking using some other appliances. I tried to bake banana bread in my rice cooker. I saw on YouTube that you could do that.
I've heard of this before. I remember when I was a lot younger reading a manga of someone in baking competitions, and at the very end of it, it had rice cooker bread recipes. My mind was blown.
Yeah, so I tried this, but unfortunately I ended up breaking my rice cooker.
Oh no.
So it didn't work very well.
Oh, that's doubly sad, Andrew. I'm sorry.
I also tried baking banana bread in the microwave because I saw online that you could do that. And I didn't break the microwave, which was great, but it didn't taste like a freshly baked loaf of banana bread. It was more just like a spongy goop. So I wouldn't recommend using your microwave to bake. Andrew,
I think you might need to stop believing what you read online.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
That's very good advice.
Yeah.
The moral of the story, or the point that I'm trying to make, is these days I don't bake very much. But what about you, Morag? Do you bake often?
I actually haven't been baking as much as I used to, but I think that's because I used to bake a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what types of things do you like to bake?
When I was in high school, I had a long-term cake baking hobby. I got into decorating the cakes, making my own fondant. You know, it was a little nuts, but it was a lot of fun.
That does sound like fun and very delicious. A very delicious hobby.
Exactly. It's also it's quite nice to bake so many cakes that you have a lot around, and then you can just give cakes to people. They're usually not expecting it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever received a cake as a gift, except for like on my birthday. But that would be a great gift. I would be super excited to receive a cake from someone.
These were given in the manner of, hey, eat this cake. I have too many. So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So you baked cakes and what other things?
I often would bake shortbread during the holidays and mince tarts. I got into vegan baking, so muffins and cookies and pies and cakes again. Baking
Wow.
is wonderful.
I love baking too. I think it's really just delicious. Baked goods are very delicious. So this is why I enjoy baking. I went through a period when I was living in Montreal, actually, where I was into sourdough bread.
Ooh.
And I would try, usually unsuccessfully, to bake sourdough bread. Have you ever tried baking bread?
I haven't, and I think that's because I can't eat gluten.
Ah, that makes sense.
So, and all of the interesting, good breads to make at home, you really do need to use wheat flour.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks really, really fun to make breads, especially the ones that are yeast risen. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
punch them.
Yeah.
That looks like a lot of fun.
I also used to make pizza dough at
Ooh.
home and bake my own pizzas. So, although this is a type of baking, we usually don't consider it baking. It's
No,
kind of like cooking, right? For a pizza, which is strange because really it is baking.
you're right. It's baking with a filling.
Hmm.
I really like making a flatbread. It's an Italian flatbread with chickpea flour.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so you just basically broil a chickpea flour batter,
Hmm.
and it gets crispy and delicious. I don't think of that as baking.
So, what exactly is broil? This is a function on the oven, right? Broil. What does this mean?
Broiling. Well, the broiler is a series of coils, usually at the very top of the oven. So it gets really hot. You don't moderate the heat the same way. When you put something up next to the broiler, you blast it with heat. So it creates crispiness, usually, in your food.
Hmm.
You do it for a small amount of time. Usually, if you're broiling something, you bake it or cook it first, and then you put it under the broiler for a small amount of time to make it crispy and charred and delicious.
Have you ever had a baking disaster that you can recall?
Oh my God, yes. um, I really messed up making my own birthday cake a couple of years ago. It
Oh
was
no.
awful.
What happened?
The cake just did not stay together, and it crumbled apart.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah. It was very disappointing. Have you had any baking disasters?
Yeah, I've had a couple of occasions where I just put something in the oven, like a tray full of cookies to bake, and then I forgot about it and only remembered when the smoke alarm was beeping.
Ooh.
And they were seared black and completely inedible. I had that happen a couple of times. It was completely my fault.
Those poor cookies.
I know.
Yeah.
What I would do for a cookie right now.
Well, you'll just have to find a friend with an oven.
One final thing, Morag, before we leave is, I don't know if we've talked about this before or not, but I actually worked in a bakery for a little bit when I was in my first year of university.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and one of my jobs that was quite fun was bagging bagels. Okay, bagging bagels. So putting bagels in bags to sell as a package. We would bake lots of bagels, and then I would have to wait for them to cool and take them off of the cooling trays. And I had this rack of like spikes on a desk that were mounted on the desk, and I would just put 5 or 6 bagels on the spikes and then put a bag over them and tie them up. And then I had a little machine that I would put the front of the bag into that would zap the bag shut.
Wow.
This was my favorite job in the bakery. It was like a big commercial bakery, so we were doing high volume. And yeah, the best thing about that job actually was the smell. It smelled so delicious in there.
I think I know what that might be like. In Montreal, I live right in between the 2 famous bagel shops.
Oh yeah, Montreal is famous for bagels.
They're delicious, I have been told.
Oh yeah, you can't eat them.
No.
I think that's a good thing, because when I worked at the bakery, I probably gained like 5 kilos that summer. I was always eating bread. So, it might be a blessing in disguise for you. Who knows? Well, Morag, we'll leave it at that for today. I want to thank all of our listeners for listening. And guys, we would like to hear what you think about baking. Are you an avid baker? Do you enjoy baking as a hobby? Send us an email and let us know. Our email address is contact@culips.com. We're also all over social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. So if you search for the Culips English podcast, you'll be sure to find us on social media. And finally, don't forget that there is a study guide available for this episode. And if you would like to give it a download, just visit culips.com to check it out. We will be back soon with another new episode, and we will talk to you then. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.